Hello, and welcome to episode 66 of What If Civilization Started Over. Let's get into it. So, last episode, a lot of stuff happened in World War III. Firstly, all nuclear bombs were used. Yeah, and now there's nuclear radiation throughout all of Europe and Asia. And because all the fronts in the Americas and Africa, specifically Southern Africa, are finished, now they're sending troops to Europe to help with the fight against Russia. And that's where we're going to be starting today. As the Albanians will be pushing in the Balkans, back the Russians a lot in the Balkans, as the Balkan front is not, the Russians aren't doing very well now, as now they are focused, not all of Europe, they're not all focused on Europe, they're also focused on Asia now, which means they have to divert troops, which means less troops here in this area, which means more troops will not survive. Yeah. And the Lime team is also able to push back greatly, but the biggest one to push back greatly is the Germans, the Germanics, as they will be taking the Polish capital, or reliberating it, and will be taking all of this area. The Red Team will also be able to kick the Russians out of the Copenhagen Island. I know that's not the actual name of the island, but yeah. And they will be able to push up in taking the capital of the Scandinavian country, and will be able to make a naval operation here and take that island. Yeah. But where the Russians are having the most success is in Asia, as the Purple Team is capitulating. And with the Purple Team, maybe not capitulating just yet, but when the capital was taken last episode, at least I'm pretty sure it was taken last episode, yeah, so they're not doing very well as they're forced to surrender. And also, they're pushing back greatly in the Pink Team and the Orange Team. And also, the Persians will be helping out against the fight, and they will be taking a bunch of areas. And the Russians will also be pushing back the Persians to about here. Yeah. And also the Russians are doing very well in the Orange Team, as they will be threatening their capital, and same thing with the Pink Team, which will have the Pink Team divert troops from the rest of the front over to their capital, which will cause Russia to push back. The fascists are doing very well against China, as China was decimated after the great nuclear bomb landings towards the end of last episode. Yeah. And with this, the fascists are able to almost take the Chinese capital. And the Orange Team is also pushing back greatly in China, where the fascists are also doing well again, is in the Indian area, as the fascists will be basically kicking the communists out of this area. And the Orange Team is also pushing back the communists a lot, as they will be able to push into the Myanmar area, threatening their capital to an extent. But the communists are also able to push back here and take the capital of the Yellow Team. That's a pretty big event. When we go to Persia, the Russians still aren't doing well over here, as they will be failing to keep control of the Black Sea from two fronts, and the communists are greatly pushing into this region. And the communists are also doing well against Egypt, as the Red Team has called Egyptian forces to go into Europe to help with the fight against the Red Team. And not against the Red Team, with the Red Team. The Germanics in Europe will be doing very well, as they will be able to push back in the Latvian area. Yeah. And they, just like one of their Polish brothers, twice, the first Polish Empire and the second Polish Empire, and the Austrians tried it as well, but they didn't succeed against Russia. And the Germanics are attempting it. And the Lime Team is also going to be doing this. And so will the Yugoslav country, as they will both be pushing back greatly. And then the Albanians will be making a landing in Turkey, retaking the Turkish capital. And it looks like Turkey isn't doing well. No, the Russians. And they're right, as they're getting pushed back in Scandinavia even more. And, time to go back to this front. As the Mediterranean Union is mainly focused on Russia, so, they will be being pushed back here. And then the Mediterranean Union will send some troops and push back. And that front is then stalemated. Yeah. The Chinese, they were able to push back. As with help from the Korean Union, yeah, this giant Asian Union, thank you, they will be able to push back the fascists greatly from two sides. And then the pink team will lose its capital, and then they will be capitulating as they will be falling over to Russia. And, yeah, I had a little pause there. And they will be capitulating, and Russia is starting to directly fight the yellow team. With this happening, the yellow team will be pushing back, just a little though, but they will still be losing their ally in the orange team, as the orange team is going to capitulate and, well, surrender. And it's not going very well for the fascists, as the Russians have taken out 3 of their allies. But in retaliation to that, the Europeans are doing very well against the Russians, as the communists will be pushing up here, and maybe communists here are not European, but still. These are the Europeans, as the Yugoslav country will be pushing back in Russia greatly. And so will the red team, as they have an operation to re-liberate the Scandinavian Union. Yeah. And then the Germanics, just like the Austrians did right before colonization of the Americas, the Polish did in World War One, in World War Two? Wait, who did it in World War Two? I need to think. The Europeans, the Polish in World War III now, and now the Germanics, also in World War III, have all done this, pushing back against Russia, and the Germanics, not like real-life World War II, but they aren't bad this time. They're just fighting with, even though majority of the troops here from a certain country called the Red Team, and they would be able to take St. Petersburg. And then, well, the Germanics will be taking the capital of Russia. But wait, that is half of the capital of Russia. For about 2 hours, the Germanics will rule the capital of Russia. But after those 2 hours, it's taken back. And then the Russians will be unleashing their secret weapon, nuclear bomb warfare. You may be wondering what that is, and you may also think what it is. It's kind of like nuclear bombs, but in the form of bomb warfare. I've talked about bomb warfare in this series before, basically kind of like grenades. People will have wagons with bombs in them, and then they throw them at their enemies. Yeah, it happened here, is the main area where it happened, with the Mediterranean Union and a bunch of other mess in the Middle East. But now the Russians are doing it again. But this time with nuclear technology. The Red Team used bomb warfare to develop nuclear bombs early in the world, like World War I early. And with that technology, they've developed a lot. And basically take the power of nuclear bombs plus, bomb warfare, and the Russians will be destroying the Germanics, as the Ukrainians will just surrender. All of Ukraine. Every troop here. There's thousands of troops here. As they flee, and, surrender. Then, this will happen, as that makes sense. And as the Germanics will be being pushed back greatly. Yeah. And the Yugoslavs will also be being pushed back greatly. And the blue team capital is retaken again. Persia will be being pushed into again. as their capital is being threatened. And well, this massive operation is going more successfully than it should be. As Istanbul is taken for like the 100,000th time in this war, well, yeah, Bulgarians will be being pushed back greatly as this happens. And well, eventually, the Albanian capital, after a spearhead is taken, but they won't capitulate. But the Lime team sure will. The Lime team will be being forced to surrender. And now the Germanics have the job of trying to recapture this territory. This is really bad. But the Albanians will be able to retake the capital and start a pushback on Russia. Yeah. The Red Team operations in Scandinavia are going, yet not very well, as they will be losing the Scandinavian capital and fully push back. But they will still be keeping hold on to this island here. Yeah. And the Persians will be able to push back the Russians, as the Russians are mainly focusing on Europe. But the Persians focusing on Asia, well, they will be pushing back greatly, taking over a bunch of territory in this area. Yeah. The yellow team is able to hold out against the Russians, as they're able to do this and also this. Yeah. The Chinese are also able to push back the communists, and then the fascists have a goal. They have a goal. As the communists were pushed back, the fascists set a goal, an operation, to knock the communists out of this war. To mainly focus on the Chinese and then the Russians. Yeah. From the fascists, they take out the communists, then the Chinese, then the Russians, and then the Red Team. And with that, the operation Operation Forever begins. As the communist pushbacks will be great, fascist pushbacks will be great, as all these countries will be storming into territory of the communists. Yeah. And also Papua New Guinea is going to join in on this war to fight against the Indonesians. As, well, for a very long time, Indonesia was divided. It collapsed after a while, after Myanmar ruled it for many years, for many centuries even, until it collapsed into this mess. And Papua New Guinea strives to unite the entire isles, and they do. And the Philippines will be following as well, as the communists are being pushed back. And the communists send one final call to all communist nations of the world. West Africa, the Americas, Arabia, and well, themselves. They will be calling all communist forces from around the world to go and flee to Arabia. Make Arabia a communist haven for the world. And make sure the Arabians will survive this war. Let communism flourish. And one day later, the capital of communist Thailand is taken, and the communists are forced to surrender. And then, just as the dictator of the communist country said, all troops from West Africa and the Americas are being sent over to Arabia. And a couple of weeks later, when they arrived, bam, huge pushbacks from not only Persia, but also the Mesopotamia. And also in Egypt, they're being pushed back greatly. Yeah. And then the Germanics will start another operation in order to take down the Russians. Yeah. Time to go back to here. As the fascists are also pushing back the Chinese greatly, as the spearhead will actually take the capital. For about a week, the Chinese capital is occupied by the fascists until it's taken back with help from the Korean Union. And then, one country. Russia's going to propose to a country. This country once had empire. An empire that flourished that the entire Mediterranean Sea, ruled it all, the strongest. And they were great, but now they're weak. They've built their empire up recently, but they're in the alliance that has the country that was once their biggest enemy. Now Russia is proposing to the Mediterranean Union for them to betray their alliance and declare war on the Triangle Alliance so they two, together, can rule the world. And guess what? In the Mediterranean Union, after some thoughts, will say yes. Probably the most important yes ever said in human history, as the Mediterranean Union's troops will be told, instead of going east, you go south and north and east again. Yeah. As the Red Iberian Zone will be taken, and as the Mediterranean Union will be destroying the Austrians, as the Yugoslav capital is taken, and the Mediterranean Union is destroying the entirety of this alliance, as the Albanian capital is taken, and the Mediterranean Union, with the help of Russia, will be taking over all of this territory right here. This territory yeah. And with this, the Red Team's island is gone, and the Germanics will be forced to surrender. And now, the entirety of the Triangle Alliance is just the Red Team. Except for you! I forgot about you. But you'll be capitulating quickly, as you're doing with the Mediterranean Union, the fourth strongest country in the world. Probably close to second now. And, yeah, that'll make it look a little nicer. As this country here will be forced to surrender. When we go to Egypt, the Suez Canal, a stalemate is happening, and Cyprus is taken. And Russia will be pushing back the communists a little, recapturing this capital. And, before we talk about the Red Team, Copenhagen Island is taken. I don't know why I'm calling it that, but I just am. The Russians will be able to push back the Persians. And, when this happens, yeah, all this territory is taken. And so is all this territory. Then a stalemate happens with the communists. And, this is pushed back greatly, as the fascists are losing ground. As, Papua New Guinea will refuse to declare war on the fascists. So, the Chinese are doing a spearhead towards the capital of this country, and they're able to make it, as they will be doing, lots of damage to the fascists. The fascists have lost much hope in their area. World War III is about to come to an end, but let's make it go off with a bang. And, we're getting rid of the layers, as the Russians are mainly focusing now upon a bunch of their troops on the fascists, as the Chinese will finally be doing significant damage to the yellow fascist country. And then eventually, the Russians will take the capital of the yellow fascist country, and the yellow fascist country, aka the ruler of the fascist bloc, has surrendered. And with this, quickly after, Orange Team will be surrendering. And soon after, much of the fascist bloc is going to surrender. Much of it. As the Russians will also be, with help from the Chinese, capitulating this country. And the Chinese will be, doing a lot of damage as this country falls. And the Indians are, guess what? Forced to surrender. And, fascism and communism, the two radical ideologies of the world, are gone. Except for communism here. Yeah. But the Triangle Alliance has lost all hope, as the Egyptian capital is taken. And Egypt, right after that, is forced to surrender. Yeah. And time to look at the final events of this video, as a ceasefire is signed here. Final event of this video: the capitulation of the Red Team, as the Russians will be pushing into the Danish area and taking the Danish area. Yeah. And they will be pushing into actual Germanic areas, or areas controlled by Germany in real life. Not this capital region. I'm pretty sure it's in the border. It looks like, yeah. As the Russians will be pushing back. This one here, the Mediterranean Union, was pushing back greatly in it. And, the Mediterranean Union will be making a landing in Britain, as they would take the entire British area from the Red Team. So many areas taken, and, well, eventually the Red Team is pushed back to this. The lowlands and some western Germanic areas. And then the Red Team is pushed back to this. And then, well, the Red Team capital was taken by the Mediterranean Union, officially ending World War III. A ceasefire happened here. Well, but wait. There was one more thing that I need to talk about. If we go over here, there's a small nation in Southeast Asia. Once a very big empire, with the color of lime, ruling South China. Now so small you barely notice it on the map. And then, Hong Kong. Well, right the day after the capital of the Red Team falls to the Mediterranean Union, the day after, Hong Kong declares war on the Diamond Alliance. Very quickly, Hong Kong is able to capitulate this country here within a week. And they will be able to absolutely destroy the Diamond Alliance, as they will be taking the capital, two of the capitals of the Korean Union, and will be absolutely decimating them, as the capital of China is taken quickly after, and then a spearhead is made towards to take the Korean Union capital. How's Hong Kong doing this? I'll tell you that in the next episode, and the Korean Union will be forced to surrender over to Hong Kong. Hong Kong has grown within about a month's time to bigger than the maximum size, as they will be forcing the Chinese to surrender. And, well, that is going to do it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. See you in the next episode, where we'll look at the peace treaty of World War III. Bye!